Yes, sir, please. Thank you.
Greetings, assalamu alaikum, and a very good afternoon to you all, ladies and gentlemen out there who are listening today and joining this webinar. I would like to thank few people who are engaging with this webinar, and I'm very privileged to be here this afternoon, thanking the president of PUP, Polytechnic University of Philippines, the VP for RED, chairperson, higher accounting, moderator, dean of the school, organizing committee of PUP, and a very special thank goes to Mac Nate. Thank you very much for inviting me and giving me this opportunity to talk about research, which are very important indeed, and definitely is in need more than ever. But surely I'm a very novice researcher, so I'm not sure how much I can offer to you, but I would try my best to share the things that I know. What I believe is that when it comes to paper submission to a journal, it has no national borders. Tens of thousands of paper are being submitted to journals across the world in a day. And definitely when it comes to submission, it has leveled the world. But when it comes to accepting the paper or acceptance of the paper, it's not really a level playing field, I would say, for the opportunity of novice researcher. Yet, one estimate puts the count at 1.8 million articles published in every year. So the question is, how did they make it? This 1.8 million papers, how did they make it? So what I'm gonna share today probably is nothing new to you all, but might be in use or worthy to know. Ladies and gentlemen, so what I'm gonna introduce today is about writing research articles for academic journals. And currently I'm working at the University of Malaya as a senior lecturer at the Department of Finance and Banking, University of Malaya. Ladies and gentlemen, before we begin with the formal understanding of how to write articles, we also need to understand why publication matters. So what we all believe is that publications are regarded as an asset that enable authors to gain the recognitions, the acknowledgement as expertise in the field in national and international level. And of course, publication in peer-reviewed journal gives you an international recognitions, not in terms of only the individual one, but it also helps you to give you recognitions, or the department or the university, the institutions get recognitions because the people, the academicians, the faculty member publishes, right? Of course, the other aspects of publication is basically it might be in use for the people who are using it. I mean, practical implications. But most of us, in most of the cases, I would say, we focus heavily on research, not on impact. So that is another aspect that I may not be focusing in today about the research impact. Rather, I'll be focusing on how to maybe construct a manuscript that would increase the chances of getting into a top journal, right? Right. So the common ABCs, the very basic in writing a journal article. What should be the ABCs, right? So the first thing is that if you want to write an article, whenever we plan to write an article or want to go for a research, right? What we first things to do is about finding a topic. So how do you find a topic? So there can be a couple of ways. There is no sequence, but I'm just putting it so that it's easier to understand. So the first thing that we can do is that we can research the journals in related area of research. Means we have to research the journals first. We have to find the journals first in our related areas. Then we have to read something. Why we do so? The first thing is reading published article in order to identify, understand, and investigate our research problem. Because the most the single most important thing in a research paper is about research problem. If we do not have a problem, if we do not have a case, then this paper, this research may not stand out, among many, and then it might be rejected and become obsolete, right? So that is the purpose. Second thing is gathering ideas, identifying gaps, understanding what is doable and what is worthwhile. So basically, when we research the journals, we read articles from the journals, then we get all sort of things. We identify the gaps, we get an idea, we identify the research problem, we also understand what is doable, what is worthwhile, what should be doing, right? Apart from reading the journals, right, or researching the journals, we also got to be doing, it's not about and or, I would say it's either and, mostly it's and, right? Or it can comes from the second one come first, then the first one goes second, right? So we got to be reading the newspapers. We need to observe the phenomena, our surroundings, right? When you read newspapers, magazines, and we also research the media, like social media, print media, right? We always notice that there are some issues, right? People are talking about some burning issues. People are talking about some interesting, lovely issues. People are talking about some concerns, right? So of course, when we read all sort of things, what do we do? Or what it makes us to do is basically identifying what is new and emerging. That is another aspect. Apart from finding a problem, because sometimes research problem might be very old. So if it is a very old problem and there are some solution, but maybe need some more solution, so that type of research sometimes may not be the interest point for the journals. So we got to be find out a new one, identifying a new and emerging problem. Right? The second is the question is how we find articles, how we find the journals, right? So one of the things that you can notice over here, finding articles. So what we do normally, if we have an idea, if we have a word, so for example, I want to work in behavioral finance, or I want to know about personal finance. So what do we do? We go to the Google. Normally, you go to Google and search it, right? Behavioral finance or personal finance, drug addiction, so many things we can find, right? Illegal drug racing, for example. We just go and type it. But the proper way, but more academic way would be we go to Google Scholar. If you look at here, I go to Google Scholar. But when you go to Google Scholar, you can see on your left side, there's an alert, right? I hope you can hear me. There's an alert. So on my right side, you can see that under the alert, what you've got to be doing, you can say what are the types of articles you want to get it. So when you say click alert, you will get something like this here, right, on the right side. So what you can do is here, you can put your different words, you can put your different terms. So when you put different terms and set it to according to your email, and they will ask you for an email. So when you put all the words that you want or the topic of interest, you put all the topic of interest, then you put your email. So any new article that is publishing every single day, you can get at least maximum 20 articles per day for each topic. So if you set it, so they will email to you, what are the recent updates? What are the updated articles about that paper? Sorry, about that topic. So how do you do that? So for example, like I put it here, definitions. So you want some definition. Maybe you are not sure about behavioral biases. What are the behavioral biases? So what do you do? You can put in text, INTXT dot, then colon here, define and behavioral biases. Then you can also search for theory. You can put in title, theory, or even you can put, like you can search literature. How do you do the in text? Then colon, then you put the, behavioral finance and personal finance. So if you put all sort of things, this is a summary also writing. You can go to Google Scholar and you can say like how to make an advanced search. So you can find all sort of ways of searching. So when you put all sort of topic or the word or the title, and you put your email there, set an alert, then this, the Google Scholar will send you the articles every single day. If you can set up to 20. So means per topic, you'll get 20 articles. So this is one way, how can we get article about the topic that we are interested in? Because sometimes we're not sure what is the update. Because if we do not read the latest paper, then we might be replicating paper. We might be doing something that has already been done. Remember, we are a global citizen. So we are targeting papers. We are submitting our papers in international level, not in local level. So we are in a global village. So if something is done in the village, it would be very repetitive and boring if you do the same thing again. So you need to know what is the latest development, the status quo. Once you know the status quo, then you would be able to come up with an interesting topic, emerging issues, emerging problems, right? So therefore, when you set this alert, you'll get the latest one. If it is published in today, it will come to your email. So that is one way. So you will find an article. So when you find articles, definitely indirectly you're getting a journal also, because when you read the article, then you know where this article published, right? So you can get the journal. So you can go to that journals, read more articles about it. So for example, there might be a special issue about it. So that is one way that you set an alert in Google Scholar and put some word and they will email to you. The first way. The second way, so for example, you set it all there. Now you want to know more about a journal. How do you know about the journals, right? So there on the top of the left side, if you notice here, finding journals and articles together, right? So there are some search. If you go to Google, you can find journals, Elsevier, Springer Journals Suggester, Wiley Jago Open Access Journal Finder, Journal Selector. So you go one of them, just write it there, and write it in Google. And when you search this one, you will find on the left side down there, you will find a journal. And click the find journals Elsevier, the next page will come like that, down there, right? So you have to enter your paper title. If you do not know any paper title, you just put a topic. It's okay. So for
Hi,
example,
Dr.
behavioral
Rahman.
finance, right? You put it here. Then, if you do not have any extra because you're not writing paper. Yes.
Good afternoon,
Hello.
Dr. Rahman.
Hello.
Actually, it's a bit robotic on
Yes. Yes.
our part. Can we just check first our connection if we are doing good or if we are still okay with our connection here
Oh,
there?
sure.
Okay, sir.
What?
And by
It's
the way,
not
sir,
moving, is it?
thank you again for accepting our invitation. It's good to see you again. And while waiting for the connection to be okay, can we just test it, sir?
Sure.
Okay, sir.
Is it my connection issues?
Okay, I think it's okay now, sir.
Just now it was
Can,
not moving. What was the issue?
we can't hear you that well a while ago. A bit robotic. The voice is a bit robotic, but now I think it's okay. So I'm sorry for that. So can we resume our
All right.
oh,
So may
ayan,
I know
thank you.
where I lost the connections from? Is it from the finding articles from this
On
page?
the next slide, sir.
The next slide, right here,
There.
finding
Yes,
journals.
sir.
Right.
Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
No problem. So when you go for the finding journals, right? So you look at here, because just now we talked about finding articles. At the same time, you can find journals, right? When they send articles, Google Scholar, you can also find journals, right? Where it published. Another way is that we can find directly journals, right? If we have an idea, if you have a topic, we can directly find the journals. How do you do that? You see, on top of the left side, if you notice, I put like find journals, Elsevier, Springer, journal suggester, Wiley journal finders, right? All sort of things. I listed few. You can find many. So when you hit one of them, just if you copy and paste in the Google, you can find the left side on your left on my left side. Journal finder down there. So I just choose only the Elsevier. So I put the paper title. So since you do not have a proper paper title, you can just put the topic. So for example, you can put a financial decision making. Then you don't have abstract. So any idea about financial decision making, you can just even copy paste the financial decision making in a Google. Whatever you get, you put it in there. And then you can set the search area. Look at the right side. If you look at my right side here, paper title, I put financial decision making. Paper abstract, I put something that I took it from the Google, right? And then I put the if you want to put keywords, you can do that, and you can find. You can also select the field of research, right? And you can put economics, business, whatever related to you, right? So when you put it and hit the button, they will give you the matching journal. So, say for example, so financial decision making. So what are the appropriate journals over here? You see, they gave showing 49 journals matching your paper or your idea. So the first paper, say for example, so the first journal that I can target is, or I can read, is a journal of behavioral and experimental finance. So what else I can know from this journal? Look at here, down there. Acceptance rate 29%. Time to first decision 10 weeks. Time to publish 10 weeks. And score is 2.3. So basically, you can find the prospective journals. And when you get the prospective journals, you can read more articles from that journals. You can read more abstract from that journal. So that's how we start. This is the basically ABC of understanding about the topic, where to get the topic, and where to read the journal articles. Of course, we basically read about newspaper, magazines, we watch TV news and all sort of things. That is the part of thing that we do. At the same time, since we are doing an academic journal, academic writing, right? So definitely we have to read journal articles, academic journal articles, right? All right. Now the question is, when you know that there are some journals, you start reading about journals, right? So when you start reading about journals, you also need to know the journal quality. You also need to know what are the types of manuscript, whether you are going to write a research paper, whether you are going to write a review paper, whether you are going to write a concept paper, right? You need to know all sort of things. And of course, the quality of the journals, right? So what do you do? These are the things that we can just go for it. So the type, we need to understand a bit of the types of articles, their journals, and the honorable honorable citations, meaning the citation is not self citations, right? So the basic thing that I feel that we should be knowing is that about types of paper, because if we are master student, PhD student, or we just a novice researcher, right, we can write many types of paper. So for example, we can start with concept paper. Concept paper is basically a short paper, 2,500 words, and like 1 to 3 figures or few tables. You're not testing the idea. You're just proposing the idea. That's it. In concept paper, you are just proposing the idea with the concept. You can just put a figures, a framework. Then the second thing, you can write a research paper. Research paper means you're not only doing a literature review, you're creating literature. You are creating new literature. How we are creating new literature? By testing the existing idea. So we are testing a framework, we are collecting data, and we test the framework. Once we get a findings, that will be a new literature. So the third one would be review papers. So which is the very popular nowadays and getting, I mean, many people are getting excited about these types of paper because, and also some of the journals are loving these review papers. Review papers can be meta review papers, meaning like you can write a paper based on literature review. And whatever existing literature you have in the area of, say, for example, you are writing about behavioral finance. So you can do a range of literature about behavioral finance, the factors affecting, and all sort of things. And then you can write a paper. It's called meta review paper. You can also write, it's called bibliometric paper. You can also analyze the citation. Using the VOS software, you can also analyze the citation, where people are writing from about this topic, and what are the key research in the area. The other type can be short communication. So for example, you are doing a wonderful work about pandemic. You found something eureka, so wonderful things. So you don't want to wait until 1-2 months to finish the paper. What do? You make a summarized version of the paper and you send it to the journal. So that is how it works. The people who get Nobel Prize, people who get awarded, all sort of things, sometimes they send the short paper first. It's a short communication paper. They want to just write their findings and they want to send it, because sometimes to prepare a proper research paper, it takes time, a couple of months. So what do? You just communicate immediately, right? And another one is the letters, which is basically for the, I would say, experienced researcher. Means you comment on a published article. Somebody published an article, you are criticizing that article. You are saying this article has some issue with the methodology. This article has some issue with the theory. So you can criticize and you can write a new paper, right? So that is the types of paper we need to understand. If we know the types of paper, it's easier for us to set the goal. Which article we want to go for? Which type of paper we want to go for? Which types of paper we want to write first, right? Then also we need to understand the types of journal. What are the types of journals, meaning like there are some high quality journal, there are some mediocre, there is some low category journal, right? How do you define? We do not know. It's very difficult for us to identify. So what do? We refer to some databases. We refer to some institutions who categorize the journals. Like one of them is ISI Web of Science, is SSCI for the social science citation index, right? So you can just go there. Let me just this is the thing. So you can just go here. You can find, so for example, like if you're in finance, you can see what are the top journals in here: Journal of Finance, Journal of Financial Economics, right? Then if you, the next one you can also look for is like Scopus Index. So the journal that you found just now, so for example, using Journal Finder or even Google Scholar, whether they are indexed in Scopus or not, whether they are indexed in SSCI or not. Then even for Malaysians, there are, I know that there's a Malaysian my sites here. Look at here. They have around 225 journals, the Malaysian journals. So if you are doing something about Malaysia, you should be reading the articles that publish in Malaysian journal as well, right? Sorry. Then also we have some non-ISI, non-Scopus index journal. They are pretty good. They're good journal, but maybe they are not yet indexed, but they have a site score, right? The another type of journal that you have to be also knowing is about predatory journal, where the cash is king. Means you pay money and they will publish. Yeah, there are many journals that you have to pay a submission fee, you have to pay a publication fee, but they are good. It is not related to the acceptance. It's related to once it is accepted, then you have a choice whether you want to go for open access or not. Then there's a publication fee. But there are some journals who are predatory. The money is directly related to the acceptance. So that is a predatory, right? So where you get all these things, one of the things that because we are not so sure, and it's very difficult for us to find which one is predatory, which one is not. So there are some people who are concerned about it. One of them is Bales, right? The Bale, he made a list, predatory journal list. So if you go to Google and you find just name Bale's list, so you will find a list of journals that he said is a suspicious journal, is better to avoid, right? It's better to avoid. All right. So there's another institutions or another school of thought or another way of listing the journals is called ABS, which is Association of Business School. We have also ABDC, Australian Business Deans Council. So these are the people, these are the institutions, these are the body. They have categorized the journal like 4-star, A-star, all sort of things. So you can, once you identify the journal, you can also see whether it's under A-star, A, B, C. Why we need to do so? Because it shows the quality. And sometimes if you read articles from the high quality journal, it might give you a better understanding in a sense that they are more scientific in nature. Because once we want to publish a paper in a high ranked journal, it takes a lot of things. You need to do the robustness test, this test, that test. Means unless it looks very sound, you won't be able to publish it. So therefore, I think it is better for us to start reading articles from top tier journals, right? And one of the indication might be the impact factor, right? All right. Now let's look at some of the strategy for improving chances of publishing in SSCI or ISI, Scopus or other index journals. So the first things I would say, why we have to follow a strategy, why it matters. We can just simply write a paper and just set it, and it should be published, right? Or you can publish in any outlet that we have around us. But that doesn't might work. Why it doesn't work? Because there are so many researchers, there are so many universities around the world who are all up for publications. So there are more research teams than the publication venues we have, means good quality publication outlets we have, right? So what happens is that if we simply just write a paper and submit, there's a high chance that our paper get rejection. Means the editor will reject the paper. It will not even go for the review process, right? And remember one thing, it is a zero-sum game. Publication is a zero-sum game, meaning a paper is accepted at the expense of a rejection. Your paper is accepted because my paper is rejected. My paper is accepted because others' paper is rejected. Because the rejection rate, acceptance rate nowadays, if you see the acceptance rate, some of the journal like 5%, 10%, 20%, what does it mean? See, hundreds of papers are coming and only 5%, 10% papers are getting accepted. So therefore we have to know how to run this race. We have to follow some strategy. Apart from having a quality, we also have to have some strategy. Because once we have a strategy, once we devote our time, some of extra time for planning or following the strategy, definitely that will make us better than our competitors, right? So therefore, we have to prepare, and preparation matters, right? So this is the first thing that I want to share with you about any article, any research you do, right? Even thesis or even proposal, even article, but not proposal, I would say any research article, right? What are things we have? So basically, in any paper, in any research, we have a research ecosystem, meaning we have title, we have abstracts, we have introduction, right? We have a methodology, we have findings and conclusion, right? So the question, the problem is why sometimes we feel that these parts are not connected. Sometimes our abstract is telling something that is not reflected from our findings or reflected from introduction. Sometimes our introduction is not telling the story that is expected from an introduction. Sometimes we do not have a concrete problem. And if we do not have a concrete problem, definitely it's not going to give you good questions or good objectives. And if we do not have an attractive objectives, then we might lose the race. And definitely we need to know about the right method. So all these things should be connected. That's why we call it research ecosystem. It should be connected together. If one of them either say for example abstract or maybe abstract is fine, but maybe introductions or method or literature, if they're not connected, they're not well gelled, then there's a high chance that this paper will be rejected, right? Okay, so since we just, if you notice here over there, like the mother of everything for a research is basically a problem statement. So I just want to spend a few minutes about this problem statements, how to do about it, and then we'll go for the rest of the parts, right? So basically, how do you find research problem? Of course, you can just you can watch the TV, you read newspapers and all sort of things. You can also read articles, right? But the problem is where you will start. Where will you start first? You are a novice. I'm a novice. I just never did any research. So where should I start? The first thing that we should start, we should listen to our heart. Try to find like your interests. So for example, I found interest in behavioral finance. I found interest how behavior affect investment. So separate, let me give you an example over here. Like you want to know something about the cost of farming. The people, the farmer, the cost of farming. So somehow you want to know why the cost of farming is very high. Why the farmers are in India going for suicidal, right? Going for suicide. What are the issues? So you have to have a topic of interest, and from there we have to move to a manageable research problem. Having a topic only, having an idea is not enough. We have to reshape the topic into a manageable research problem by asking questions. What are the questions? Who, what, where, why, how, all sort of things. Why the price is high, why the cost of farming is very high. I mean, what are the issues? How, where the problem started from, and all sort of questions. Once you ask questions, and then you will see, you will be able to define the problem. And once you start to define the problem, you have to read articles. You have to go to the academic articles, read the abstract, at least a few abstracts about that topic, right? And then we'll be giving an idea. So once you're able to define a problem, then we have to start writing the problem statements. So for example, here, what they put here, farming costs are escalating. Farmers are unable to buy the inputs. Many people have proposed pro-farmer policies, right? Among the solutions, there are many solutions. However, it turned out to be not very beneficial for the farmer. Therefore, I want to do this. Therefore, I want to do this research. These are the kind of things. And once you have once you have that problem, trust me, we will be able to find a research design. We'll be able to find what method we're going to use, whether it's going to be qualitative, whether it's going to be quantitative, right? And then surely we are on track, right? So basically, if you want to write, when you want to write a problem statement, these are the things we must have. What I believe, this is non-scientific, but this is what I normally follow, is we should have some basic information, some required information, right? So the what are the things we should have must is area of concern, a bigger area of concern. What is the bigger area of concern? So for example, maybe we heard a lot about Philippines about this illegal drug racing, right? So it can be area of concern, can be illegal drug racing. So for example, then you cannot just say that, you know, there's illegal drug racing, no. Then we have to go for the second one, is called a specific problem. So we have to give some facts and figures every year about how many people are involved in this. So you have to give some exact fix and figures from the statistics. So that will make the problem concrete. And after that, once you give the statistics, then we have to come up with the gap. Yeah, many people might have already studied. So why you are studying? So then we have to say, all right, some people, some researchers have studied this part of this. However, nobody has studied, or very few or very little research has been done in illegal drug racing while doing this, for example. So we have to find the gap. So once we find the gap, we spot the gap, then we have to propose a method. What method you are going to do it? Are you going to do for quantitative? Do you have a secondary data? Do you have a survey data? Is that sufficient? Is that going to answer your question? If not, are you going for qualitative? You're going to interview? You're going to go for focus group discussion? What are you going to do? Or you are going to do a case study? So we have many ways of doing so. So basically the method is determined according to the research questions. So if your research questions can be answered by interview, then go ahead for that. If your research question is will be answered by survey, then go ahead with that. So that would be way. So basically we have to understand about this few things. And the last things would be the scope of the study. Because when you talk about illegal drug racing, you cannot address every single things about it because it's impossible, right? So what do? We have to set a scope. Look, I want to do about only Manila. I want to do over here. I want to do in this stage. I want to do only the urban people. I want to do in the village people, so for example. So we have to set the scope. So it will be very clear. So area of concern, specific problem with the statistics, gap, method, and then the setting, where you want to do it, right? All right. So I just want to just show, and then we will go touch and go. Some of the, there are two examples of the problem statement. This is the qualitative problem statement. You can later on read it. You can see here that we have a general problem. Then we have a specific problem with the numbers. You have a gaps over here. Then we have a scope here. What method do we studied? Where the geographical location is in. This is one of the qualitative problem statement, right? I'll show you another quantitative statement. Look at this one. This is the quantitative statements of problem. So here, the similar way is a similar way. Basically, you must have a general problem, right? That is supported by literature and not been answered. Remember, like if you find a problem and that has already been answered by the literature, then there is no point of doing research anymore. So what I got to be finding is that literature, when you do a literature, basically we want to know what is done and what can be done. So the things that is already been answered by literature, there is no, there is no need to do a second research. Or maybe sometime, yes, sometime maybe you want to validate it. Somebody has tested in US, you want to do in Philippines or in Malaysia. That would be, but that will be like a replication, right? So basically we need to have a general problem supported by literature. We need to have a specific problem by a lot of citations, right? That is not been done. And the types of study, what method, and then the geographical location, meaning this is the setting of the paper, right? All right. Sorry. Oh, sorry. Sorry, I got mistakes, messed up. Sorry. It's not coming up. Oh, sorry for this one. All right. So now we just let's get some of tips and tricks for a manuscript construction, right? Just now we talk about why strategy matters, and one of the things is problem statement. So I wanted to make it clear that what should be the problem, and once the problem statement right, the other things can be also linked and can be also, I'll say very much related, right? Look at the first things that we do when you write on paper, right? of course, we'll be looking for untitled, right? And the title shouldn't be very long. Sometimes we make a very long title, not catchy. So, like one of the examples can be, does culture affect economic outcomes? That can be, a simple and short and catchy title. Does culture affect economic outcomes? So people would be wanting to know whether culture does matter, right? So that is one of it. Then we go for the abstract. When it comes to abstract, you can see here, it's also very important, because sometimes the editor, or sometimes, I would say the editor wouldn't have enough time to read the whole paper before sending it for review, right? So what they can do, or the editors does sometimes, the editor does, is basically read the abstract, see whether it is a concise or not, see whether you have objectives, whether you have and proper method, whether you have a contribution, whether you have an impact. Sometimes, as I said, we don't really focus on impact, the true impact. We talk about outcome, right? What would be the outcome of this? And definitely whether is informative, attractive, and effective or not, right? So how do you write the papers? The abstract, basically, we start with the topic sentence, something catchy topic sentence, like illegal drag racing became a burning question for Philippines, for example. Then we have research objective, RO. Then we have method, what method you use, what you found. Is anything new? Are you offering anything new, right? And then policy implication, if you have any. All right. Now let's come into the specific one, introduction, which is very, very, very important for a paper, for a journal article. Why I say so? Because introduction is almost like, the heart of everything for a paper. Why I'll say heart of the paper? Because it has, if you notice the purpose of introduction, look at down there, the purpose of introduction. What we want to prepare in the introduction, we want to discuss the nature of research. We want to discuss the purpose of research. We want to also know the significance of the research problem. We also know the research questions to be addressed or not. So, pretty much everything should be in the abstract. Nowadays, they also want us to put the contribution. So we have to outright write in the introduction, what is your contribution? Because once you submit the articles, means you already have a findings, right? So we have to put that findings, that contribution into our introduction. So the introduction should be very, very complete. So people can get a flavor of the whole paper by reading the introduction, right? So we must have some basic information, right, about the introduction, about the general idea. So how we do that? Look at the right side, the diagram here. Introduction, basically, we start with the known and general, right? Known and general, we go down to specific, because very broad area about separate illegal drag racing is a very wide. So we want to narrow down to the very specific question. So that is how we write introduction. From the very big idea, even from, you can go for the global context, like what is happening, what is the status quo about the illegal drag racing in the world. Then narrow down to Philippines, narrow down to Malaysia, and all sort of things. So we narrow it down to make it specific, right? So it is known or general to unknown or specific, right? Then we have to present a problem there. We must present the problem. How do you write? Let me just give you one example. Look at the example, the introduction. Over the past 5 years, social media usage has risen consistently. Many studies have investigated social media in Generation Y, but few studies have looked at social media usage among secondary school children. The heavy use of social media by secondary school children is causing anxiety among parents. They now spend up to 9 hours a day on social platforms, while 30% of all the time spent online is now allocated to social media interaction. See, this is you are putting the facts and figures. You're not talking about problem, but you are giving also facts and figures. What are the facts and figures? 9 hours a day. 30% of all the time they're spending in the social media. Then once you present the problem, what do you say? The magic word or the magic sentence? However, it remains unclear what factors influence. Or you can even write it like, however, very little is known about how behavioral factors affect people to go for social media, for example. So we cannot claim that nobody has done it. This is I would say in social science, this is I would say a lame claim that nobody has done this research. I am the first one who is doing. I think it's a very risky statement. So rather than saying that, we can say it remained unclear or very little is known about it. So therefore, this study aims to do this, right? So remember, when you write article, when you write introduction, we at the end of the introduction, means once you are done with introduction, we have to check whether it fulfills the purpose of introduction or not. So what is the purpose of introduction? Discuss the nature of research, the purpose of objective of the research, the significance of the research problem, the research questions to be addressed or not. So we have to check each and everything. If we do not mention the significance of the research problem, then it is not complete. So we have to find it. And now addition is that nowadays people put contribution in the introduction section as well. Next, we go for the literature review. So what is the purpose of literature review? We have to always keep things in mind, that what is the purpose of literature review? Why we should put literature review, right? The purpose of literature review is basically gathering ideas, identifying gaps, understanding what's doable and what's worthwhile. So what we need to do a critical review, right? We have to summarize, then we have to evaluate, and we have to combine this summarize and evaluations. Means like summarize and they say why this is not true, why somebody says is true, somebody says not true, somebody discuss about this one, our other papers say no, this is not right one. All sort of critical literature review, right? And remember, literature review is like a data collection and analysis. Is a very important part of a research paper, because if the literature review is not comprehensive, then it does not justify that you are doing something new. If you cover a very comprehensive literature review, then people know that you covered everything, and literature says there is nothing about the new one that you are doing it. So literature review is the backbone of a study. So without backbone, the study will be very shaky, very weak, right? Right. So we can just do different types of literature review nowadays. It's called systematic literature review. We have all sort of bibliometric ways of doing so, many ways of doing so, right? So when you do a literature review, remember, sometimes what we do is that we do literature review only based on the topic, but we should do literature based on everything. Means our topic, our theory, our method, and our findings, right? Whatever we find, whether it's backed by other literature or not, right? So basically, at the end of the day, we have to see whether our literature review has fulfilled the purpose of literature review, whether we managed to get some ideas or not, whether we managed to identify the gaps or not. If my literature review did not identify the gaps, then the purpose of literature review is not really there. So for example, you say, what do you sometimes write? A said this, B said this, C said this, that's it. So we do not really identify the gaps. A said this, B did not say about this, C said no, it should not be this. No, if we critically analyze, then we can find what is not been done. So we have to find the gaps. And then we have to also find out what is doable. Sometimes, we might say, we want to know whether somebody, whether people can live forever. This is, we can do research, but that is like very, I would say, not very realistic, right? So you have to know whether this research is doable or not. The third one, the materials and method. Again, there's a purpose of method. We also always have to keep in mind, what is the purpose of method? The purpose of method is to show the study's validity is judged, whether your research is valid or not, whether the method you use is proper method or not, whether the method you use is robust or not, right? So basically, it should answer a few questions, right? Two main questions is, how was the data collected or generated? Is it primary, secondary? How you have collected? You have to write in a very simple word, very simple sentences, and clear, straightforward. Who is the respondent? Where you collected the data? How many were respondent? Is it secondary data you took from the banks? You took from the World Bank? Where? Everything should be stated very clearly so people can replicate it, right? So when any layman can replicate your paper, means that is wonderful. That is the purpose of introducing methodology, right? So the writing should be very direct, very precise, and if possible, we can write in past tense, right? So what else we have to know is that if we see, how do we know that whether our method is clear or not? If a layman or any other person, say for example, I'm doing in finance, a colleague of mine who are also working on finance, if he cannot replicate my paper, meaning my materials and method is not clear, that's why he didn't understand it. So that happened many times when I read many articles from very top journal also. Sometimes I don't understand it, right? Because maybe it is just a very sophisticated model, or sometimes it's not very clear how they have conducted, right? So sometimes we write to the authors, can you share your questionnaire? Can you share this way how you have conducted, right? It's not very clear. And we also have to cite the data source where you have taken the data. It should be scientific, it should be reliable, right? And of course, we have to find an appropriate method. Empirical papers, we have case study papers, we have mathematical paper, we have theoretical papers. So you all have to follow appropriate method. So that would give extra points, or I would say incremental contribution to our paper, right? And definitely we also need to know what are the softwares, what are the techniques we have to be using, right? We can use SPSS, we can use EVUs, Stata R, M+, SAS, all sort of things, SPSS, we can use AMOS, right? Smart PLS, all sort of things we can use. So we have to be very clear. That's the message over here. When you write materials and method, it should show that our study is valid with this method, with these techniques. All right. Then results and discussion. Again, there's a purpose of results and discussion. What is the purpose of results and discussion? To interpret and describe the significance of our findings in light of what has already known about this research problem. Because when you identify a research problem, we might have some findings about it, but the findings may not be satisfactory. That's why we want to do again, right? So we have to interpret and describe what is the significance of our findings in light of the previous finding, right? The second thing is that we have to explain whether we have a fresh insights about the problem, the new findings. Is there anything new about it? What is already been done, we confirm, right? A is positively related to B. So for example, the previous iterators find A is positively related to B. So that is the previous finding. So in US, so I'm testing in now Philippines. So when I'm testing in Philippines, I found yes, A is also related to B, positively related to B. That's fine, it's confirming. But whether we found something new, a fresh insights, what else that I can offer, that would be an incremental contribution. That will stand out, that will help people stand out the paper and get it accepted. So there are some things that we got to be very clear about it. And sometimes we put too many figures and tables. It may not make things interesting. It might make it boring, unclear. So we only have to put the tables that are necessary. And when you put the tables and figures, we have to explain it. You know, what does it mean? What it says, at least briefly. So that then people will understand our communication. Else people will not understand our communication. Remember, when you talk with other people, is a communication, right? Verbal communication. Writing a paper is a writing communication. So we have to know how to communicate well, so people understand our paper, and laymen understand our paper. Right? Conclusion. In many occasions, what we find is that the conclusion is just a summary. We put a summary of the paper. We just sometimes we put restatements of our research problem. We just write research problem again, we write the objective again, or we just summarize the points. Actually, what the readers are looking for in the conclusion is the prospects, the knowledge that you're offering. You know, how our paper is advances the field. You know, what is the state of knowledge that we're offering now? What is the future research also? And of course, we have to mention the limitations of the research. We also have to mention what the new things we're offering, what we're offering for the policymaker, right? So it should not only merely say that, you know, A is related to B, B is related to C. We already found it in the discussion. We already found it in the results. So we don't have to repeat it again. A repetition wouldn't make the conclusion any better, or it will not add any value. So each and every point, remember, introduction, literature, method, discussion, conclusion, each and every point should make some contribution, should add value to the paper. If your contribution, if your conclusion doesn't add any value to the paper, then what is the point of having a conclusion? So what is the purpose of conclusion? To help the readers understand why our research should matter to them after they have finished reading the paper. So means once they read the paper, why it would be a matter to them, what would enhance their knowledge, you know, how our paper would enhance their knowledge, whether they are getting their direction for future research or not. So therefore, conclusion should also add value to the paper. As I said, each and every heading, each and every part in a paper should add value to the research paper. Else, it will be not meaning. It will be meaningless, right? Right. So the other part that I just want to share is the brief that I got from internet. Writing for an academic journal, 9 tips. The first things for the novice researcher like me, I'm actually doing it for myself. This is a tips for myself and also the people who are out there listening to me, the novice researcher. The first thing is have a strategy, make a plan. What do you mean by have a strategy and make a plan? Research other researchers in your field. That's the first thing we should be doing. If I do in behavioral finance, I should be finding out who are the gurus in our behavioral finance, who are the leading researchers in our research in my area. So I have to read their articles. I have to understand about them. I have to try to see what is their point. Like when I do behavioral finance, I read Dan Early, Professor Dan Early, right, from Duke University. I read about Daniel Kahneman, Tversky. I read about Schiller, all the people who are the big shot in my field. So we have to research the researchers in our field. Second thing is analyze writing journals in your field. Meaning when I find the journals, I have to read some abstract from that journal for the last few issues to see what are the latest issue. Because sometimes we are not very sure what are the latest issue or latest problem. So we have to read some abstracts, at least few abstract, or maybe if possible all the abstract for the last few issues of that journal. That will be great. Then do an outline and just write. So sometimes what happens is that we just want to start writing rather than doing an outline. It is always a good thing to outline the main section, what you are going to do according to a target journal. So for example, you want to target in Journal of Behavioral Finance. So basically, what are the things they want? What are the things they expect? And how their introduction look like, right? So we can outline it, then we can start writing. Just write it. Sometimes we wait for we wait to know everything, then we start writing. I think that is not a very good way for that wouldn't be to me personally, that wouldn't be a good way to go on for novice research. We should start writing, then we will be able to improve ourselves. The fourth thing is get feedback from start to finish. So we always have to discuss. Doesn't matter whether it's a new idea or old idea. We always have to discuss at least few people around us, 4 to 5 people, to get feedback. What do you think about my abstract? Maybe you write an abstract. Maybe you wrote an introduction. So what do you think? Introduction. So what do you think about this introduction? We always have to. Then fifth thing is the specific writing goals and sub goals. Sometimes we just say, all right, I'll finish this paper in 4 months. So we procrastinate. We delay. So we have to be very specific setting our goals. Like, all right, I'll be reading 5 articles or 10 articles or 20 articles in these 2 days. And I'll write 800 words, very specific. Then that would help us to achieve. The other one is number 6 is write with others. Sometimes we think writing an article means we have to write by our own everything. Not necessarily. So when we write with others, especially for the novice researcher, so when you start writing with others, basically it helps to develop confidence, fluency, and focus. Sometimes we are not very sure about the method. We are not very sure about whether the problem statement is good enough or not. So we have to start writing with others. So once we have enough knowledge, then we can start writing our own if you want. Or you can always write with others. It's not a big issue at all. Rather, it is being, I think, highly appreciated, because when you have 2, 3 authors, means like we cannot be an expert for method, for literature review and everything. So when 2 or 3 brains comes together, it gives a better feedback. It gives a better idea. It gives a better picture, right? A better view. Then 7 is analyze reviewers' feedback on your submission. So we always have to be very careful about reviewers feedback. When you receive a feedback, when you submit an article and you receive feedback from reviewers, remember, facing the reviewers is basically, it is not what they put the comments or suggestions that matters. It matters is that it is how we respond. It's not about what other comments they are giving a very difficult comments and all those things. Yes, they might give you a very hard comment, very difficult comment that is difficult to address. But again, it also depends on how we respond. So you have to be very polite in responding to ideas. Then the number 8 is be patient thick skin and resilience. I think we all have that, the academicians, because we have to absorb, we have to digest the criticism. Being a new or being a novice, or whether you are novice or not, even we are experienced researchers, we get huge criticism. Sometimes we are being beaten up, head to toe. Our research papers are torn out, right? There no nothing. No, this is a rubbish paper. Sorry for the language. People do use all sort of things, right? This is nothing. This is not a new idea. So we will get a lot of criticism, but then we have to be persistent. We have to keep learning. We have to keep reading, and then that will help us to be a better researcher. And the last of all, I would say, take care of yourself. Why also I say so? Because this academia, this publication game or publication process is I would say is a very highly competitive game, and it can be extremely stressful. So we have to absorb, we have to know how to handle the stress, we have to know how to manage our time. So if we do it well, then definitely would be able to go on with a better plan. So these are the few things that maybe I'm reminding myself and the listener to go on about it. Dear moderator, do I have enough time? Then I can share more. Else I will stop over here. Hello.
Dr. Ahmad, good afternoon.
Yeah. Do I have a more
Okay.
time to continue, or you want me to stop over here?
Okay, sir. We will check on the committee. I think,
Right.
sir.
So
How many more minutes? I think we can still proceed because the topic is really very interesting. So we can proceed for a few more
all right,
minutes.
maybe the next section I'll go. I'll be very
Yes, sir.
brief, right? I'll just very brief. Right. So,
Okay, sir. Thank you.
however, when you are done with the paper, right? When I have a ready paper, maybe we have written a paper. Now we have to, choose the right platform. And I think, the priority matters where to put, right? So this is one of the non-scientific one that I shared earlier, that you can just start with a conference. You can check your ideas, whether it's working or not. You can attend some international conference, and definitely we get a lot of feedback. So the level of difficulties, I would say conference is much easier. That's why I put in the down, put down of the ladder. So is it much easier? We can go to conference, we can present our idea, and we can always get a lot of feedbacks. Then if we feel it's not that good enough, then we can go for non-index journal. We can go for book chapter, even book, and then index journal. When it comes to journal, which publisher you will be targeting? I think there is no scientific way of doing so. It's just my experience. I think Emerald Publishing is sometimes is helping the young researcher, and it nurturing the young researcher. So you get less rejection. They will give you a lot of I would say major revision. So you get then Routledge, Taylor and Francis. They're also helping. Sage, with Springer, we have Elsevier and John. We have Whaley, right? So you can try different publishers. Different publisher has a different way of looking at the papers, different way of handling the papers, right? And nowadays we have also MDPI, the open access one, right? You can also try out there, but of course that has a publication fee, right? So remember, in journal we have a two business model. One business model is you submit and they will accept, and they will publish without any fee, anything. The another one is we submit the paper. If they accept, then they will say there's a publication fee. You have to pay for it, but that is not related to the acceptance, right? The another one we have basically in finance journal. Basically, we have to pay a submission fee. That is even harder, because there's no guarantee that your paper will go for review, even that they can reject the paper, right? Right. So basically, if you say some of the things that we need to know, and how the basically reviewers or maybe editor look at the paper. This is just one of my non-scientific way of rating different parts. So I'll say the topic might be, if they give a weight to our topic, our research paper, they will maybe just give 10% to the topic, whether it's a catchy topic, interesting topic, and all. The second, maybe 20% is about quality of writing, whether we are presenting our idea very well. We might have a very interesting story, but if we do not know how to present our story, then nobody is going to buy our story, right? So quality of writing is very important. Then about materials and method, what method you use, whether the method is robust or not, whether the method is the current, recent, and the method is appropriate or not. That's the most important thing, whether the method is appropriate or not, right? The third thing is whether you have a good amount of literature, means you have a comprehensive literature, whether you are using theory or not. That might be another 10%. And the last 30%, I would say, the contribution of the paper. It can have a theoretical contribution, you can have a empirical contribution, you can have many types of contribution, but of course there are few that is about theory, about empirical, right, and about method. So we may not have all types, we may not have all three types of contribution, but we can have say for example practical contribution, right, or we can have some mathematical contribution. All right, so look at how I mean, if you want to make a better topic, how do you do that? You see here the topic must be very recent in nature, and for example is making headlines. As I said, illegal drag racing. I was looking for some news in Philippines. I saw this one of the headlines, illegal drag racing. So that is making headlines. So it is a very important, interesting topic. So we might go for it. Then whether there is a need to address this topic, another thing. Sometimes we have a very old concern that nobody, this is a problem, but we are not being able to solve the problem. So therefore, this is going on for so long. So I think that may not be very interesting to go on with that, right? And we also have to identify whether the issue has been neglected. Sometimes there are some important issue, but it's always been neglected. So we can always highlight that, right? The second is about contribution of the research paper, whether it has an incremental contribution. As I mentioned earlier also, like in social science, we may not have a pure contribution because we are not inventing anything almost, right? So we are adding to a theory, we are adding to we are adding a new construct to the theory maybe, or we are adding a new variables, or we are testing a new framework, we are testing a new setting of the research, right? So it's basically about incremental contribution, right? And how and to whom it will contribute. Remember, in the introduction section, we also have to mention the contribution. So that is the new trend in journals. Most of the journals says that, okay, you have to put upfront what are the contributions, to whom and how, and all sort of things. So it will make things interesting, right? Right. And whether you are testing theory or you are generating theory, right? All right. Then, of course, we also have to be very careful about the theory, how we are relating our research to theory, how theory can explain our research, how theory can explain the findings, whether your findings can be explained by a theory or not. That would be wonderful if we can do that, right? So we also have to have a very, underpinning theory or related theories, or not only one, it can be 2, 3, 4, right? But it's 1, 2 is better, right? Then the fourth one is materials and method. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, that we need to be very careful about that. That it is very simple. The way you write is very simple. The way you write, people can easily replicate. The data should be from a reliable source, so-called reliable source, right? And the paper should address, and advances the method that you are doing it, right? And we also have to justify, and we also have to show all sort of proxies of variables that we use, how you measure the variables, right? Whether even making a new variable or measuring, coming up with the new variables might be a huge contribution to a paper, but we have to show it step by step. We have to show it properly how we are doing, whatever the process, what was the process, scientific, right? And of course, the clarity, the structure and quality of writing, that does matter. And I believe that Philippines is much ahead of many other Asian countries in terms of the language. They are doing in terms of they are doing much better in terms of speaking English or even writing English. So I think therefore it would be a great things or advantage for you all who are from Philippines, right? But in general, this part of the world, Asian countries, right, it's quite difficult for us to write a good paper that has a flow of a good English, I would say. So sometimes what do? We send for proofreading. We send for or maybe sometimes what do? We have a co-author from English-speaking country, right? And it's not about only somebody who is from US or UK would be able to write a good paper. No, not necessarily. You know why? Because academic writing is different than the way we speak. Therefore, academic English, the presentation will come handy if we read a lot of articles. That's why I feel like when you read a lot of good articles, we find a way of writing. We find a way of interesting. I would say interesting way of writing a paper. The interesting way of presenting ideas that are very important. So I think this is important to understand. And of course, we have to check the silly mistakes, grammars, and all sort of things, right? Facing journals and reviewers. How do we face journals and reviewers? Remember, one of the things that we always have to keep in mind that once we want to submit a paper, we have to prepare the paper according to the journal requirements. Sometimes we want to save our time. We said, it is a very time consuming to follow the citation style, follow the referencing style, and all this. So why don't I submit a raw paper, and once it's accepted, then I will. No, it doesn't work that way, because if we do that, basically editor will simply reject the paper. So there are some general issues that we notice also got in the paper, apart from having the I would say writing the paper following the journal's requirements. We also have some general problems, like you are not really following the things that the journal wants, meaning that you also find that the issue that you address is not very important, or maybe it's not original. It's duplicate research. It's somebody else has done somewhere, so you did the same thing. Nothing had changed. No addition. No variable is being added. No new things is coming out. It's only the different country. So that might be some of the issues, right? Or sometimes the data might be old and irrelevant. Sometimes we use, say for example, we are in 2020. If you use the data until 2015, say for example, or your literature mostly are very old until 2010. So that might be giving a bad credit or bad ratings for your paper, right? And definitely, of course, the ethical issues. The second thing is about scientific problem, sometimes unclear hypothesis. The way we put the hypothesis is not very clear. We said A is related to B, but that is basically, in which direction A is related to B or B is related to A. Why don't we just make it very clear? A positively affect B or A negatively affect B. So it's very clear that A is affecting B. There's no chance B is affecting A. So for example, if there is none. So we have to be very clear about that, right? Sometimes the design of the research is poor. We have to be very careful about the method that we use, right? Sometimes we have a sample bias. Say for example, we want to make something generalized. We have to make a generalization about Philippines, but then we only took sample from Manila. That would be very biased sample, because we can't make any generalization about Philippines if we do not take samples from all around the Philippines, right? Yeah, so that is also very important. Sometimes references are outdated. Presentation, I think I mentioned earlier that how you present it, whether your paper is poorly organized, badly written, careless errors, dire tables, very dry. Sometimes I would say very dry tables means the table, only numbers. The table has only numbers. You didn't explain anything. People cannot understand what does it mean, what the figure represents, what the table represents. So, and sometimes we put too many tables and figures, which doesn't have any meaning or doesn't add any value. Remember, we should not add anything, whether it is table, whether it is any subtopic, or either any figure that is not adding any value to the paper. So we have to remember that whatever we put, we can be very concise. The journal doesn't want to waste their space. Journal has, they have to pay for all these things, right? So they don't want to waste the space. So they want to make sure that every single thing that you put in the paper should be very valuable. And then, of course, the plagiarism issues. I think it's better to check the multicollinearity issues. Sorry, not multicollinearity. The Turnitin. That whether you're plagiarized or not. The similarity index. Whether you're crossing above 10% or 20%. Some journals they have they do check upfront. When you send the paper, it's automatically checked. It goes to Turnitin and they check the plagiarism. If they find 30% or 40%, they will outright reject the paper. So we shouldn't be doing that. So we should check the plagiarism before you send the paper. I think this is the do's and don'ts. This is the do's, what you should be doing, right? Examine the scope of the journal, format the paper appropriately, prepare a cover letter, suggest some referees, participate some peer review process. Sometimes you can just be involved in the journal with the reviewer, so you get an idea about the journal. That is one good way of doing so, right? Don'ts, we should not simply just submit without formatting the paper. That is not recommended. We should not simply just whatever editors or reviewer says, we just simply ignoring it and revise the paper. That will be also a bad thing. We should always face the reviewers by nicely addressing their comments. We should not delay, about submitting papers or revisions, right? And we also have to show the willingness that we will be revising the paper. If there's any, because sometimes you don't normally, like for us, when you write a paper and submit, we don't get straight away accepted, right? We get revisions. So when they send you revision, if you are not willing to make all the changes, sometimes the journal just simply reject it, because you submit but without incorporating all the changes that have been suggested by the reviewers, then they wouldn't be interested to publish your paper. Sometimes if you are very willing, you are trying, even though it could not address everything, they might give you a chance. So that is very important for that. And we also have to mention about the limitation, but we should not highlight all the time that this is the limitation of the study, this is the limitation of our study. We don't have to repair it. We just have to mention it. We don't have to highlight, then the reviewer will catch that things and say your paper has a lot of limitations, right? So I think this is the last thing that we would be understanding about the importance of writing a papers. I think we have to set the priority where we want to send the journals, which journal we want to send, and we have to follow the rules and regulation or the outside the requirements that are put forward by the journals. Second thing, we should we should read the recent abstracts of that journal. So you will know that in what direction the journal is going, what are the types of paper they are publishing, what is the way of writing. So what I do basically, and I always suggest others that if you want to submit a paper to a journal, read at least few papers or few abstract or few introduction of that journal, few articles from that journal. So once you read, you will know that what are the style, the presentation, or what they expect in the introduction, what they expect in the methodology, the way of writing. So that is a better way. And of course, we have to build network and collaboration. That what your university is doing is a wonderful job. We have to be, working together. We have to have a network. We have to be well connected so that we know each other, that how it works. If anything, any conference going on, the conference might be tied to some good journals, so we'll have more opportunities. And definitely we have to check the language issue before submission, and we can also always keep our eyes on for special issues, so that sometimes special issues give you a better chance of getting into that journal in a shorter period of time. So I think with that note, I thank you all, and thank you very much for listening. And definitely I would give you a special thank to the Polytechnical University of Philippines, the moderators, the chairman, the VP for RED, the deans of the school, and the organizing committee. Thank you so much, and thank you so much the audience who are listening today. Good afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mohammad Mahfuzur Rahman, and once again for accepting our invitation to be part of our webinar here in the Polytechnic University of the Philippines. And that's really a very comprehensive and informative lecture from you. And by the way, at this point, would it be okay if we ask some questions, sir?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, sir. Okay. The first question that we had here from our participants, when doing the literature review, to be considered as good or valid or relevant reference as far as publication is concerned, how old should the literature or study be? Would 5 years or 10 years be enough?
I think if we target that we want to send the paper in 2021, for example, the beginning of 2021. So we should have some references from 2020 to 19. We can go back to 5 years or 10 years, but 5 years we can have a combination of some from 5 years, last 5 years, some from last 10 years. And of course, we have to cite the core papers. So for example, if you want to go for a behavioral finance article, so we always go for the Daniel Kahneman Tversky. So these are the core papers, or maybe Schiller. So if we do not cite all sort of course papers, so people do question about it. So people think that we may not read that paper. So it's not necessarily have to be very recent. Some paper, of course, the core paper we have to be citing. On top of that, we have to have many recent literature. So when we have a recent literature, means it shows that we have enough knowledge about the current publications about that paper. So that will make things more reliable for everyone. So and people will be trusting. Okay, that's wonderful. Means like you are doing a good job. Means you have gone through all the recent ideas, and that's why you are claiming that this is the new edition, or this is the new. Otherwise, if I read until 15 or 16, say for example, most of my literature until 16, and they said no one has done anything about it, I am submitting the paper in 2020 or 2021. So that would be a questionable claim. So therefore, it's always better to go for a bigger one. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. That's very well said from you, Dr. Raman. We have our second question. You have mentioned that we can work together. So if we write with others, is there a maximum number of authors as far as publication is concerned?
When it comes to social science, I would say there is no, like, nobody mentioned about it. It has to be 4 authors, 2 authors, 3 authors. But of course, like 3 to 4 authors or 2 to 3 authors is fine in social science. 3 to 5, or sometimes even 4 or 5 authors. It depends on. These are the normal custom, 2 to 3 authors, right? When it comes to science, medical science, you can see 50, 60, 70, even 100 authors. Why is so? Because the validity of the paper. Remember, when you go for the significance level in the pure science, medical science, right? Significance level, they just 0.000001, because it has an implication. If they come up with a medicine and the significance level, the error level is 5%, then of course they wouldn't be testing that. But in social science, basically it's not that. So therefore, I would say similar goes for the authors also. So we do not need to have like that many of authors, but as long as we have like maybe 2 to 3 authors, sometimes I would say it's fine. But of course it depends. Maybe some we always have to avoid the free riders, because sometimes we have who doesn't contribute, we just simply put the name. So that wouldn't be a good practice, even for ethical reasons and others. So it's better to have I would say 2 to 3 authors or 4 authors. I think that would do.
Okay, sir. Noted, and thank you for that. Sir, we still have three more questions. So we have here, if we submit our paper in Scopus Index journal, how long does it take before the paper is published? Normally, how long does it take?
I think it depends. I'll say it depends on the journal, but many journals, I think, for the first decision, you might get in 1 to 2 weeks time, or max a month. I think most of the journal. So they because the first decision comes from I would say editor. Sometime, most of the time from the editor. So editor will look at the paper, and if the finds is okay, so they will just send it for review. Then you might have to be like, but sometimes, as I say, like it depends. If you pass the first screening, the first from the editor, then you might have to wait another 2-3 months. But nowadays, I would say, because of the overwhelming response from the authors, there's too many papers. Like one of the journals that I'm involved, we used to have like 100 papers a year or 200 papers a year. Sometimes we used to. Now we are having 50 papers per month. So I mean, it's not easy for even the editor, for the and all sort of people who are involved to review all those things, and get back to you. And sometimes we also like there are too many journals. So like I'm receiving too many papers for review. So sometimes I also cannot do I cannot keep my promise. So sometimes I say, okay, I'll give it, but then it takes time. So in general, not. But the way I just now in the beginning I showed the how to search the journal, right? The journal finder. When you go for journal finder, you will notice that when you go for their journal, it mentioned that how long it takes. What is the acceptance rate? 2 to 3 weeks, 1 week. So most of the good journals, that's why I say, like most of the good journals, they have everything written in black and white. I mean, 2 to 3 weeks, 4 to 5 weeks, it's mentioned there. But of course, some open access journal like MDPI nowadays, you can see they are quite fast, because they pay their reviewers to do the review. So it's I think it's quite fast. But most of the journals, I would say, at least you have to wait 3-4 months total. The process is 4 months, 3 to 4 months, yeah, at least.
Thank you very much, sir. And we hope that we can also publish in your journal soon.
It's not my journal. It's not my journal. I'm part of that
Okay.
journal. Yeah, it's
Thank you,
not
thank
my
you.
journal. I'm part of that journal. I'm just like
Yes,
that.
yes, yes. Thank you. From our audience here, so from Miss Francia Peñaflor, can a research paper be published in different journals? So, is there any guidelines on writing paper for publication?
Sorry, I didn't get the question.
Can we? The question is, can a research paper be published in different journals?
Same
The same
paper published
paper.
in different journal.
Can
One
we?
paper, one single
One
paper
paper.
published
Yes.
in different journal.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's the question.
No,
If
no,
we
no.
can do
That's
that.
that is unethical. We can't do that. We can't publish same paper in different articles. Even we can't submit. We shouldn't
Yes.
submit. We should not concurrently submit. So this is ethical issues. I'm talking about ethical issues. But people does sometimes. But I don't personally support as well.
Yes, sir. I agree with you. And another here. But if you are able to publish your paper in a journal, but later on found out that this is one of the predatory journals, what can you suggest to the author?
I think this is I'm also not sure about, but what I think personally, you can write
Okay.
to the journal. You can write to that journal. Says I didn't know about this journal. Well, but however I published it, and my faculty or my university is not recognizing the journal. Unfortunately, I'm in need of a publication, and I feel I wanna withdraw. Is there any way that I can withdraw the paper? All this has been published, but you can delist it or you can delete it from your journal so that I can just submit somewhere else. I think that can be an approach that we can try, but there is no, I mean, once you accept that, once you sign it, that, okay, I'm agreed, all these sort of forms that I'm agreed to publish, the copyright form, because sometimes all these journals, even the predatory journals, they're asking for copyright form. So once we fill up copyright form and sign that I'm agreed to
Mhm.
publish, then we cannot do any legal issues. We just have to request. If we make a request and they accept it, you tell your case that what are you doing and what do you expect. You don't have to say you are predatory, that's what I want to know. You just say like, I find my faculty, my university, my institution is not really encouraging or appreciating your journal, unfortunately. So would I get the privilege to withdraw the paper? I think something might work. This is just my personal view, right?
Mhm, mhm. Okay. Hopefully, we could also refund what we paid for the publication fee. I hope that is
I'm
also
not sure.
possible. Yes.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. Yeah.
Okay, sir. I think for the last question, just to clarify regarding the ethical issue on publishing the same paper in different journals. Can you comment on that, sir? About the
Um,
ethical issue in publishing the same paper in different journals.
no, in any context, I personally, I think this is not right. What we can do, one things can be done. I noticed that sometimes we present the paper in a conference, right? We present the paper in conference, and they put in a what do you call the proceedings, conference proceedings. But then we can reshape the paper. We change a good amount of the things, and we can publish in a journal article. So that can be done. Or we can present a paper and we ask the conference committee that please do not include this paper in
Mhm.
proceeding. I want to publish in a journal. So it's not no problem at all for that case, for conference. But if it's published in one journal and you want to publish the same thing in another journal, that is a big issue. And I personally, and I think this goes against the ethics of academia.